This occurred the night of our very first Sleepout. The board, as you know, the board of directors of Care for Friends sponsors a Sleepout in the winter every year, when the board itself, plus its supporters and guests and friends and other people who help raise funds through this process, sleep out on the front lawn of the same church that sponsors space for Care for Friends to be in. And we begin, I think, around 6 o'clock in the evening, and we're there till at least 6 o'clock the next morning. So it's a full 12 hours. It's often cold, and I remember the first year we did it, we knew nothing about being homeless. It was an experience about, what are you going to eat that night, and where are you going to get it, and all of that. We really put ourselves into that mode. Anyway, we were hanging around we did have tents. I'm not going to say we were true rugged outdoorsy types, but we were putting up the tents, and a gentleman walked by who I did recognize from our hot lunch program, but I hadn't seen him in a while. And he stopped intentionally, and of course he was interested in what we were doing, but he said, well, he wanted to talk to me in particular, and he said, I wanted to say thank you to you guys. I haven't seen you for a while because I'm now in the program at the Lincoln Park Community Shelter. Now that program is unlike most shelters in the city in that it's a pretty rigorous intake commitment, because that program is committed to taking people from homelessness to really getting them independent and living in a home by themselves. And so they're careful about, is somebody really serious about this, or are they just looking for a couple of nights off the street? And many of our guests have to make a transition to get to that point. And I remember talking to him, and I know he went several times for an interview and then had to go back again and back again and back again before. Really, it wasn't them. I mean, the first couple of times he blamed it on them being tough, but it was really him not being ready. And so he was doing well in the program. He was ready to go. The other thing was he had phlebitis in his legs, which is it's a lymphatic problem when your legs swell up. And part of the process of being in the shelter was he had that attended to medically. And I don't know how long he'd lived with it, but it had been a pretty miserable part of his life. And to recognize that he was free of that misery, and he was diagnosed at our diagnostic health clinic. And so he was able, the minute he got into this program, to say, yes, I have this physical issue. And they got him medical treatment straight away. And to see the optimism and the joy he had. One of the things, and you know this, JD, as well as I do, that most caregiving programs want to move people essentially from C to D. In other words, we're most happy working with people who already have certain things going for them. And then how can we improve that? So for example, kids who are actually enrolled in public school, how can we make their experience of public school better? Well, that's moving from C to D. We are committed, and we said this right at the beginning when we were talking about the overall program and its community life. We're moving people from A to B. People who have literally no resources, very little trust of any social system that might even help them, less trust of any government program, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And to get them to make that first step, it takes a lot of basically loving kindness to get them there. And this guy, when he talked, I think you were standing right beside me at the time, when this guy talked to me, you could see that he had, perhaps more than anything else, more than his physical cure, more than being on the road to getting a home, being committed to making his life better, you could see that he had absorbed loving kindness and he wanted to pay that back to me. Great moment.